Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Here and Now videocast. And on this episode, I have Heidi's House of Alchemy. It sounds so mysterious, and there's going to be a lot to share. And Heidi's got a beautiful story to share with us. And Heidi, thank you for being my guest, and welcome to the Here and Now videocast. And how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and have a conversation.
Thank you. And so let's dive in. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what made you? How is this beautiful woman sitting here? What shaped her? We were talking about diamonds earlier before we started, right? The
Mhm.
polished diamond, which is where you're at, and what did it take to get you here today?
Well, that's very kind. I don't always feel like a polished diamond, but I do know, or at least I've heard, that diamonds are formed under pressure. And I feel that what brought me here today is the result of different types of pressure, which I know that we all experience in our lives. Certainly, this is across the board. We all experience pressure. And so, gosh, where do I start? I think maybe just sort of this word alchemy. Heidi's House of Alchemy was a name I came up with for my business. And the word alchemy really fascinates me because it actually just simply means transformation. And I guess back in, long, long ago, um, the nobility might have had an alchemist on staff that would work, I guess, with kind of chemistry types of notions, turning base metal to gold. And it's a more common theme these days, but around 5 years ago, when I came up with Heidi's House of Alchemy, I hadn't heard much about it. But inner alchemy is something that is actually gaining popularity and is a term that we might see a lot on Instagram and in other spaces that offer healing. So I guess from my life experience along the way, I started searching for personal alchemy. How do I transform these things that are beginning to create such pressure inside of me that I can't hold them anymore? There's a feeling that I think humans can have of inner combustion that can result in collapse. Um, and so I started exploring how to make these shifts within myself and then learned along the way that, oh my gosh, this is giving me the skills to shift the things outside of me. So sort of the tagline or motto of Heidi's House of Alchemy, which is you know what my belief system in large part is based on, is sort of how this inner alchemy, this inner transformation, truly and tangibly creates outer transformation. So, yeah.
I love it. That was beautifully articulated. And so people that do this work, you, me, it's usually something that comes in later. I mean, I know there's younger people now. I know a few that start in their 20s, but 10, 15 years ago, this kind of work wasn't an option on your career list at school, right? It really wasn't something that we ever imagined doing, not me at least. And most of us had a past before we transitioned into this healing coaching world. Do you want to share a bit about your past? Like, who were you before and after the two lives?
Sure. Yeah. Thank
I love your story, and I feel that a lot of people would be in awe of it too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And just to back up before I begin that, your share about the younger people these days, I just have to say, I just feel like every generation really evolves. I have two children and they're in their 20s, and I learned so much from them. And as I see the younger generations, I'm just like, gosh, how do you already know that? It took me my a whole lifetime to get that concept, and you're just it's part of you. So like a big shout out to the younger people, but also an acknowledgement of lived experience. It's very valuable as well. Yeah. So I guess a little bit about myself, my life, how I got here, very, very brief, um, is that uh, when I was 3 years old, my mother, who really, really wanted a career on stage, she was a pianist. She wanted a career on stage more than life itself. My mother didn't care. And I also want to preface that my mother is no longer living, and anything I say that might be unflattering towards her is just my story. And I know that she and I had some karmic interplay. So I'm just sharing my story and not seeking to portray her in a negative light. But my childhood experience with her and as her daughter uh, was difficult. I do believe that because of her own personal disappointment, she was unaware of how she lived her life through me. And so at the age of 3, she started me in music lessons. And I never liked them. I was always nervous and uncomfortable. And by the time I was 5 years old, I was in Japan studying with Shinichi Suzuki and performing on stage with hundreds of other children. And by the time I was 13, I was playing solos with the Utah Symphony, which was where I was from, and then sent to boarding school to train in the arts. So if I had really wanted to do this, and from the outside looking in, everybody always said, "Oh, you have such a privileged life, and you're so lucky to have a mother that's so dedicated to you." But really, the reality was that it was very traumatic for me, actually, and I didn't, because of the way I was conditioned. Um, I basically just went along with everything because I learned at a very, very early age uh, that to gain my mother's attention and love, I needed to perform perfectly. And I don't use the word perfect lightly. So there was a lot of damage done. And I continued on to have a very successful career in the Chicago Symphony, the St. Louis Symphony, and um, at a certain point, though, kind of, I broke down and realized that I couldn't keep living in this way. This was not who I was. A career on stage brought a great deal of anxiety for me. And so I started exploring different paths of healing and trying to find myself and, learn what actually did make me happy and who I was. And so I delved into many different healing modalities. And along the way, that child within me began to heal. And then several years ago, um, it was around the time of COVID, just prior to COVID. I went through a divorce and I quit my job and I was diving even more deeply. I mean, everyone knows what dark night of the soul is these days. So, very long dark night of the soul. And I started having some epiphanies and feeling that, okay, there's some positive shifts happening inside of myself. And I started just journaling one day. I remember it was in the fall. And I started writing. And I started writing about how my inner child was healing and some of my experiences. And after a couple of months of writing, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm writing a book. And like I started also becoming much more open. um, I guess things shifting in me and people that I mentored with, learning skills for channeling and things like that, the energy world. I felt I was being guided to create a program for inner child healing. And so um, I guess sort of the end of this ramble is that from my own inner combustion that burst about 5 years ago, like I can't take it anymore. I just, it's like there's got to be something other than this. And I combusted. My whole world fell apart. It was my doing for sure, but it fell apart. And in the rubble, I discovered myself. And I know that sounds like a horrible cliche, but it's really true. I did. In the rubble, just the utter deterioration of almost everything that I had relied on. Um, I found myself, and so I've been building back up from there, and really am such a devotee of inner child healing, and it touches so many aspects of our lives.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. Please don't apologize for sharing because this is your time. So anything that comes up and you feel called to share, don't apologize for it. Just let it speak. And it's coming from a deep place. So it's going to touch people just where they need it. I'm not a fan of apologies unless they're really required. I think we say sorry too often when we don't need to. So, and with what you're discovering, so you say that the inner combustion, is it combustion or alchemy? I wonder.
I think it's both. I think for me, like that's a very interesting question. I would love to sit with that for quite a while. I will. Actually,
I don't know. I'm not dismissing your reality, but I don't see the combustion. I see the alchemization. Can you say, is that a word? Can we use alchemization? The
we just made it.
alchemic process happening. And I feel it's happening to all of us. Some embrace it and some are courageous enough to go into that dark night of the soul and not fight the alchemic process and allow it to do its thing. And many people fight it and it causes so much resistance. And as we said before we started, it causes a huge biological breakdown. But I don't know, I didn't see that. And it'd be interesting for you to share, like, why combustion and not alchemy when you're here doing amazing, powerful work?
I don't know, I'd have to look up the word combustion and really understand if I'm using it properly. But for me, the combustion, I guess the way I think of that word is that after years and years of pressure, that something, I guess maybe it's like an explosion, like something just breaks inside of you, it combusts, it explodes to allow for the alchemy to happen. But you're right. I mean, there is a type of alchemy happening prior to the combustion, prior to the explosion, because alchemy is always happening. It's just, are we aware of it or not? And also, are we kind of an active participant. And
Yes.
I think, yeah, that it's like, are we intentional and an active partner and participant with the alchemy? Or is it like happening and we're kind of not aware of it, but we're aware of the pressure and the discomfort until something explodes and combusts, and we're like, I guess I've got to look at this now, you know?
And maybe it's just a nuance, but and as we shared before, the words are very powerful, especially to that inner child. So I was just curious about that and how you saw it and compared in relation to what I'm seeing in you. And I just wondered what that meant to you.
Yeah.
And so my next question for you, what would you say yeah now as we move on from the past and go to the future? What would you say here now to the inner child that's listening to you talk?
Well, it's interesting because she's completely different now. We do have our moments, of course, we always do. I'm like, where's that coming from? Let me check in. And then she's kind of like back how I might have seen her a few years ago because we're having a moment. But how I see her now, it's funny that you say that because there's a picture that's actually not me as a child that I just shared on my Instagram story. And it's it's this she's me though. It's this little child. She looks like she's running, so she's old enough to run. Um, she might be about 6 years old, and she's in this field, and there's golden sunlight, and she's just running free. And she's finally happy, and she finally feels that she can be seen. And so when I connect with my inner child now, that's what I see, how I feel. And it brings me so much joy for her, for that part of me, and for adult me, because those feelings are now starting to trickle into my life. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes I have downward spiral days. They're really bad. But I feel I have skills now to know what's happening and to ask myself the right questions. And also, it's really interesting because I had one or two just this past week, one or two of these days. I'm like, oh, what's going on? You know, I was doing so well. And then the next day, you know, after my contemplation and working with whatever it is and doing what I need to do, I'm like, I'm starting to realize that those those times for me, on a personal level, yes, I'm still learning as a human, I'm still evolving. But on a spiritual level, I'm like, wow, those times offer what I refer to as these golden threads of wisdom, golden threads of wisdom that you discover so much. It's like in those depths. And, you know, here we bring up the word shadow, in the shadow, in our shadow, which I love to de-villainize. I love to talk about the shadow and how, you know, I view it maybe a little bit differently than some people, but like, man, the shadow really has golden threads of wisdom for us if we will only spend a little time there. It is important to, though, to have skills to navigate the shadow, and so it doesn't kind of pull you under, which I've also experienced in the past. That's no good. But yeah.
Thank you. I echo a lot of what I resonate a lot of what you're saying, and I would love to share, but this is not my time. So I'm really like, okay, I love it, but another time.
Oh, you should
And
share.
no, it's for another time. I'd like to take you to the future. You ready to go on a journey?
Sure.
So what do you see alchemizing for you in the future? What's your vision and your dreams? And
Yeah. Um, I, so my vision is, I'm trying to think of a way to say it that doesn't sound like an Instagram post or a cliche, and it's difficult.
Don't
But
worry about that. Just speak freely.
I do
ChatGPT is
want to
not
say
watching.
but I also want it to sound a certain, yeah, I don't know, like reflect how I actually feel. And I just want to share like when I tap into the energy of my future, what I feel is a wide open expanse. And I almost see like this field opening up for me. And within that field, I would like to really share, honestly, just share as much as I can for whoever feels they may benefit, um, how to heal the parts of themselves that one might think of when you think of the words inner child healing or shadow work or parts work or just, but beyond those, I guess I'm searching for words beyond those because there's something below that, like beneath that. It's really, yeah, it's really our original blueprint. That's what it is. That's what was trying to come up. It's the original blueprint, which I feel we of course all have an original blueprint. And what happens is that it gets clouded along the way. It's like I'm seeing in my mind's eye like a blueprint for a home. Like, oh, I'm going to build a home. What do I want it to be like? And so I have this beautiful blueprint of my home, and then somebody comes and like scribbles all over it, or like pours coffee on it, or like the dog eats it, or and it's like you messed with my blueprint. And then that's what life does. It's like it messes, don't mess with my blueprint. This is the basis for my choices in life. This is the basis for my true gifts of and what I can bring to the world, which others might be bringing as well, but I bring it in my own way, that from my blueprint. It's my original essence. And so for me, that wide expanse relates to the original blueprint. It's cosmic, and we all have that. And so I want to help people clean up and brush off. Like one of the images I love to think of when I think of inner child healing is that, for instance, 5 years ago, when my divorce and quitting my job and you know buying my own home for the first time in my life, like all of these scary things that I felt compelled to do, it's like that was the combustion moment, like when a geologist goes to the dig and they know that there's treasure underneath this boulder, and so they take out the chisel and they're like chiseling at it. It's very kind of not subtle, but as they get closer to the gold, they get out their brush and they start being very gentle and brushing, because they realize that the treasure is so valuable. And so that's my passion, my longing, my desire is to offer that for whoever feels that I might be able to help them with that process in their own life. And that is something, yes, of course, I've gone to workshops and read books and done trainings and gotten certifications, but I honestly feel like my own lived experience, trial and error, blood, sweat, and tears. I've been through that. And that image of the little girl running freely in the field in sunshine, that's my original blueprint. And I want to assist people in the excavation of their original blueprint.
That's very beautiful and a very loving thing to bring to, in spite of your challenges, in spite of your story, you found through your alchemic combustive process, you find a deeper calling, which is very, very powerful because a lot of people take their pain and their suffering and that abandonment of the inner child and use it to hurt the world in return. So to see you and hear you and feel you talk about wanting to bring love and a gift to the world in spite of your story, it's really powerful. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Heidi, what would you say your superpower is?
Oh my gosh. I don't making a good cup of coffee.
No, that's not good enough.
This is tea, but
This,
I've had a lot of coffee already today.
what is your superpower? What makes you stand out?
Um,
And this moment is for you to be bold and courageous, okay? So don't hold back. Don't go into any humility because humility is actually a suppression of power. Speak boldly.
um, so we'll have to unpack that because I'm not sure if I agree about what you just said about humility. That
Okay,
would be
okay, okay, we can.
not right now.
I
I'm gonna
think,
answer
yeah,
your
okay,
question.
uh,
Remind me because we need to talk about that.
okay.
Um, um, okay, so I would say that I began discovering it, and it is a hard question to answer about oneself, but I will answer it. And I would say about, gosh, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, when I was married, I was a householder, my kids were little, and I was like in this, like in the trenches trying to figure out what's going on. How can I start to feel better? I did this course online. I was always like doing these online courses and reading things. And um, within this course, this notion of what is your superpower, like who are you really inside? What is your presence? It started talking about our presence and how what our presence is something we offer to the world that that we just have. We were born with. It's part of our blueprint. And so I was meditating on this because I was like, okay, I don't know what I don't even feel I have that. I was feeling very low, but I was meditating a lot and doing the work and so in meditation, I heard this word, and the word was calm. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I suffer from panic attacks. I've fainted in public before because I have like panic attacks and phobias and anxiety, and I am not calm. And they're like, calm. And so I meditated more and more, like over a period of time. And I imagined like these layers of trauma and dysfunction and conditioning and other people's voices and what they wanted from me and who they wanted me to be, like just falling away. And when I came to my core, I actually felt calm for maybe the first time in my life. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, maybe that's my presence. Maybe I'm calm. And so I feel like maybe that's something I offer to people is just maybe a calm presence, because that is at the center of my being when I release any anxieties I might have or worries or stress. Like it's just there. It's sometimes it's hidden, but I think maybe others feel that. I don't know, but that's what I'm coming up with.
And that was very beautiful. And just to say, to come back to the point that you said I should remind you about, your humility in this moment is suppressing your power.
I disagree.
This is why, look, you feel it and you are it. I've known you a few minutes and I've seen you online and I feel it and it's there. But your humility is suppressing your power.
Okay, so I'll tell you why I disagree, if that's okay with you.
Please, please go.
Because I've been sitting with the word humility and humble, these words, for several weeks now, actually. So that's interesting that you bring that word into our conversation. I feel like confidence and humility can coexist. And I feel like this is just my perspective, but I feel what you're referring to is probably some lingering insecurities I have because just of the life I lived. We're all insecure about certain things, and one of the things I've been working on personally is being more vulnerable. And I feel like inside of vulnerable practice, like my vulnerability practice, which has been difficult for me because I was raised very strictly, very old school, very you have to be perfect, right? You have to perform, you have to compete, you have to be the best, you have to achieve, and all of that. So being vulnerable means I show that I'm not perfect. And it also requires a degree of humility when one has spent their life trying to be perfect. So I think humility for me really can be a replacement for like a recovering perfectionist, maybe, which I am. But I think I will, it's difficult for me to admit, but I will admit that, yeah, I have insecurities about what I'm doing out in the world. I still get very scared, like, is what I'm offering helpful? Will it ever expand the way I dream it will? Those are insecurities. And is it okay for me to share my strengths verbally and say what I think I bring to the table? That's hard for me. And that's an insecurity that I will be judged by others as being whatever, conceited or full of myself. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. So feel free to come back.
They're like, okay.
It's your turn.
No, today is about you. I'm learning how to hold the space and allow you to speak. And maybe we can sit another time, another video cast, and go into the inner why the inner child humility doesn't for me. And because I grew up with so much humility, always putting others first and never wanting to own my strengths, I found it held me back so much. And there was a post I put a couple yesterday, and it was about our deepest fear. You know, the poem by is what's the name? I forget the name. It was on the show Coach Carter. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness. See? And you can't, if you put humility into that, it's like putting water on a fire. That child wants to feel its power. And if you tell it, You can't speak your truth because you'll be judged. That's the wounded child speaking. You'll be judged, and by whom? By whom? On social media, sure, but who are those people? And there's a beautiful thing I'll send you by Brené Brown, and she was talking about, do you know the? It's a short thing. I think it was a TEDx talk. She did a TEDx talk. Do you know Brené Brown?
Yes.
And after a TEDx talk took off, it really exploded. Her husband and someone close to her, a publisher or someone, said, please don't go on the internet and read the comments. And she did just that. And she went to read the comments, and people were giving her such a hard time, insulting her, insulting her looks. And it really, it hurt her a lot, which is what I'm echoing with you. And she said after that, she learned that I will not take criticism from anybody who isn't doing what you're doing. If you're not in the ring of life, trying to show up, trying to own your power, trying to speak your truth, trying to do your good, then I don't want to hear from you. And the people that will criticize you and judge you are those people who are doing nothing. So why do we worry about what they might think when your inner child, when my inner child, when whoever's watching, the inner child wants to know, I got you, and the things you were never given, here they are. You're beautiful beyond measure. Calmness is your superpower because I am. And do I have to work on it? Yes, but I am. So I don't know if humility comes into the equation of owning your superpower and being in service to our clients, to our partners, to our kids, to our colleagues. If you that power is love, whether it's calmness, whether it's joy, whether it's I don't know, generosity. When it's authentic, it's only love. So it can never be used for harm. If harm comes out of it, if there's an ulterior motive, like I just want you to my clients, so I can get your money, or then it's ego, and then it's going to have a negative repercussion. So I don't know. Anyway, not about me, it's just about you.
No, it's definitely worth talking about. We can do another podcast on humility. It's really, honestly, it's important, I think. And I think maybe uh, sort of what one believes humility is definitely comes into play. And there might be different beliefs around what is humility for me, might not be humility for another. Certainly, words don't have to be so black and white, and they don't have to be the Merriam-Webster dictionary version. It also is our experience with humility. Um, it's a powerful word, and I think it can be triggering as well.
I see. And I guess we can open that up another time because there's a lot to explore there. And so let's keep moving. And I'll ask you about here and now. Who are you here now? What are you bringing? What is your calling and what is your mission here and now?
Well, I think always my mission is my personal growth. Always, how do I show up for myself and people in my life every single day? How do I care for my home, my body, my mind, my emotions? Um, on any given day, each of us may wake up and, we wake up in a certain energy or a certain mood, and it's like, how do we wake up to the person we are that day and do the things we want to do and share the things we want to share? So that's just kind of a micro kind of looking in kind of a micro way into my everyday life. Like I'm just trying to take care of my life and myself and the people around me. Um, Other than that, right now, I really like my current passion, and where most of my energy is going is my program, which is opening in July, and It's the Inner Child Healing Journey program. And I first released that back in around the time of COVID. And I held it a couple of times. And, from that aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I'm writing a book. And then I created a program and then I offered it. And so flash forward till now, I've been doing other things and again doing more healing myself, more discovery, more growth. And for the past several months, maybe since last fall, seems like I get a lot of my inspirations in the fall, the harvest. Um, I just felt this tapping on my heart, my mind, my soul, like do the inner child healing program again. I'm like, really? But I'm doing all this other stuff. Really? They're like, yeah, bring it back up. So I'm like, okay. And so I start exploring it again. And I remembered why I put it away the first time, because I remembered at that time during COVID, that's when everything went online. And, we had Skype prior to Zoom. We all learned to Zoom. I am not a technical person. Just that, or just getting on Zoom was like pulling my hair out. I'm not. Anyway, so the way I offered the program through Zoom and then the Dropbox links and the PDFs and the meditations that I sent, it was very overwhelming for me because I was offering a program and kind of being this channel, for helping people and then dealing with the marketing and the technical aspects. And it was a lot. So I had a little chat with Spirit recently, and said, okay, I really would love to do this work again, but it's overwhelming. I just can't do that again. It's too stressful. And I'm not going to do that in that way. And the answer was like, get a partner. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I reached out to a young woman who I've actually never met. She's one of those online friends that we all have in a community that I belong to, that we belong to, actually, Way Showers.
Oh, Zach's beautiful project.
Yes, and I reached out to her and I said, would you chat with me about something? And she said, sure. So we got on Zoom, just like you and I here. And I said, this is my program. I'm really feeling called to resurrect it and expand it. I can't stand the technical stuff. It drives me crazy. It stresses me out. I just want to be the creative. Can you help me? Would you want to partner with me? And she said yes. And so we began working on this together to offer it in more expansive ways. And I'm learning so much from her. And we started several months ago. So within that time, I have also been very, very inspired. And I've, I actually, when I was a child, I'm remembering back to, I really loved writing and English and read. I read all the time. I have a very large book collection and I loved writing. I've always loved writing. So I started looking over the book that I wrote that goes with the program. And I began writing again, and it was around 60 pages, and now it's over 100 pages, and it has beautiful pictures. I've learned how to generate pictures through AI and this and that, and it's an actual book. And my writing has also become like, just in the recent weeks, I almost feel like an automatic writing. I'm feeling through just the channeling this channel opening up more clearly, like being purified and things flowing through. And I think that's happening for a lot of us right now. I think this is part of our collective, you know, I don't want to say development. That sounds like school. It's our collective.
It's the elevating of the conscious, isn't it? There's something happening.
There's something happening. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing a lot, and it's just flowing. And I've never had that feeling of like automatic writing, like somebody's kind of writing for me. And it's not like I give completely over to it, but it's like a partnership. And what's really funny is that I'm from the generation where we had typing in high school.
I remember the typewriters. Oh my God.
Like with a typewriter, you go ding,
Yes. Yeah.
ding, you
Oh,
get your whiteout out and you fix.
exactly. Oh, wow.
So I actually um, type very fast, and I can type on my computer with my eyes closed, and I don't make too many mistakes. And so I just like it just flows. And so yeah, that's kind of what my daily life looks like in a nutshell. And the project, I'm resurrecting, inner child healing, writing,
Beautiful.
all that.
And as we slowly and sadly come to a close, is there a message you'd like to share to the audience, to the people that will see this? Is there something you'd like them to know deeply about you and your calling and your work? Anything that comes from the heart that you just want to give out to the world right now?
I think just that, I mean, I almost just feel guided to just express that many people's lives, and I think we see this a lot online and around us, many people's lives look so perfect and so much better than ours. And we can suffer from this. But I think what I feel is that there's within every human on the planet, no matter how well we're doing in our lives, we do have tender parts inside of us. And so I guess it's my hope and my wish that first and foremost, we learn as a human collective to be kinder and softer and gentler, more patient, compassionate, and just very tender with ourselves every single day, as much as we can. Because when we cultivate to the point of embodying this type of energy with ourselves, then we can share that with others from a real embodied place and not just lip service, not just, you know, something that we say from our intellect. It's like we really understand what that's like to be going through a hard time or to be hard on ourselves or have a bad day or maybe be going through a crisis and our world is falling apart. Like if we can show ourselves, if we practice tenderness every day with ourselves and patience and acceptance and understanding, which I believe like is at the heart of inner child work and of the work that I offer and believe in, then we can offer that to others. And we may not, offering this to others in our own little small corner of the world may not touch the other side of the world today. But if we all kind of take care of our own corner, then all of the corners will be taken care of in in very healing ways. So I think that's kind of my final thought.
That was a very beautiful ending. I believe you're really doing great things. And I see so much more coming to all the people that come across you. And calmness is your superpower. It just comes off you. So thank you so much, Heidi, for your time and your presence and your sharing and your vulnerability. And I appreciate having you as a guest.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much. I really appreciated this. It was a beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing yourself as well and for the questions and guiding the conversation. Thank you.